The data required for an NCAP submission includes details of fertiliser purchases for the year, contiguous land holdings, and the details of fertiliser application. Each of these are built up from your records. And there's a spreadsheet which can be downloaded in the Help Centre, which can assist you to aggregate and calculate some of the information required. By stepping through the 3 data entry pages, you will have recorded the information required to complete your NCAP submission. So we'll start with fertiliser purchases. You'll see here I've already used this a bit like a digital diary and kept a record of those fertiliser purchases. I've made more purchases on my farm, so I need to add new, clicking this Add New button. Remembering, if you didn't purchase any fertiliser at all for the year, you can step on to the contiguous land holdings page. If you did purchase fertiliser, then you need to put in the details of the name of the company you bought the fertiliser from and the date that was purchased, and then scroll down to some details of the brand name of the fertiliser and the quantity in metric tonnes, or if it's liquid fertiliser, then the number of litres that were purchased. If you've purchased dry fertiliser and mixed it with water for spreading, you enter the dry weight in tonnes. So each time you want to record a new purchase from the same fertiliser company on that same day, then you click Add Item at the bottom left of the form. I'll just pause for a moment and add some details. So here I am adding some details. I've bought some fertiliser from Fertiliser Company 2 on the 12th of September. If I look at my records and think, actually it was the 14th, I changed that date by clicking on the calendar or over-typing these numbers. So on the 14th of September from Fertiliser Company 2, I've purchased some Fertco 2N and I bought 10 tonnes of this. That's right, I'm going to add another number because on my docket it says that I bought something else, Fertco 2N Super. And here I can either type in those numbers or I can use these little arrows to say, cool, I've bought 5 tonnes of this. 5 tonnes, add one more item, Fertco 2 Super double N 5. And I'm going to save this. So here you go back to the dashboard and now you can see I've purchased some product from Fertiliser Company 1, some product from Fertiliser Company 2, product from Fertiliser Company 1. I just want to check that Fertiliser Company 2 record because I might have made a mistake. To do that, click the edit button, scroll on down, there's my 2N, I bought 10 tonnes. There's my 2N Super, I bought 5 tonnes, and I didn't buy 2 Super double N. I can remove that. And there I go, simply that record no longer exists. Remembering this is a declaration of compliant information, so it needs to be correct. Once I'm sure I've got that right, click that save again. You can go through this back and forth to make sure that your records are right. And you can add these each time you buy more fertiliser. Treat it a bit like a diary of synthetic nitrogen purchase. Once you've got everything quite happily right, click Save and Continue, and the Contiguous Land Holdings page will pop up. That's the next stage in data entry. So a contiguous land holding is any block of joined up land belonging to a farming operation. Any block separated from each other by land, not including road or rail or streams or rivers, that doesn't belong to the main farm operation is a separate contiguous land holding. The Help Centre over here describes in real detail and illustrates this to show what is meant in the regulations by this term contiguous land holdings. To create a land holding, which the fertiliser is then applied to, and click the Add New in that dark green box once again, top right of the form. You do need to do this each year, as farmland use can change or it can be added to or sold off, which affects the area being reported. So to start the record, enter a name for the block of land. This could be a formal name like Broad Meadows, or it could be an informal name which helps you identify the area, such as runoff or main farm. So I'm going to put this in as the main block. You can see I'm as good as typing as ever. And then make sure that you are reporting on the current year, if it's for this year's records. You can go back in time and report the previous year's records. In fact, if you didn't report in 2022, we would encourage you to add to those records. However, we're going to do a record for 2023 and look at that total hectares of land which is being reported on. So I'd said 140 hectares. I'm putting that 140 hectares that I'm reporting on. My 140 hectares is in Bay of Plenty. So I've declared that that is the regional council that my records will be sent to. By scrolling down, you start the place where you can enter the records of what fertiliser, or the kilograms of synthetic nitrogen fertiliser that have been applied to the different types of land. Again, that health centre really gives you the details of what is meant by grazed land, grazed forage crops, those types of things. If you don't have details from your spreading company, or you've done self-spreading, this spreadsheet here, which is available also through the help centre, can be downloaded to help calculate that. You'll enter details of each date or time that you've spread fertiliser, and the front sheet will calculate up the numbers that you need to enter into this part of the NCAP form. So I'm declaring here that I've 130 hectares of my farm is grazed land, and I have put 97, it's been calculated, 97 kilograms per hectare average of synthetic N. I've also got 10 hectares which I grow forage crops, and on those forage crops they needed a bit of help, so I've put 120 kilograms as an average on those crops. I don't have any grazed harvest or non-forage crops, and I don't have any ungrazed land on my 140 hectares. So in doing that, I have declared that there is 0 land there and 0 fertiliser applied. If you were entering a submission that there was no synthetic fertiliser applied for the year, all of these fields would have zeros in them. So finally, scroll down to locate where your land is. This helps the councils identify who has and hasn't submitted their records for the year. So you can use your address finder. So I'm going to type in that I am, what did I say, Bay of Plenty, so Waihi Beach, Bay of Plenty. I'm not at the RSA, Waihi Beach, Bay of Plenty, which will then, when I scroll down, I can zoom in and zoom out to get to a place where I pick up this dark green pin and identify that is my farm there. So the closer you get by entering your actual address or your rapid rural number and road name into that field, the closer you can get. This pin can drop on the centre of your land, where the letterbox or your tanker track entrance or the farm dairy, as long as it is within or alongside the piece of land that you're reporting on, that information will really help the councils understand that you have supplied the information. Once you've got it all correct, click the Save button. And from here, there's just that header information. It's the main block, it's 140 hectares. It's for the 2023 reporting year. And you can re-look at everything that's been entered by clicking the Edit, which brings up all of that information back on screen. You can double, triple check it, make any alterations that you might want to, or if it all looks a little odd, you can delete that record and start again. I'm sure I've got it reasonably right, so I'm going to click Save. And as with the fertiliser purchase details, once I'm certain that I've got that right, I will click Save and Continue. And now we get to talk about and enter in the fertiliser applications on that land. At this point, if under your contiguous land holdings you'd put zeros all the way through because you're declaring that you didn't apply any fertiliser, you can step on in the menu to the submission summary page. And you don't have to enter fertiliser information if you are declaring that there was no synthetic fertiliser added to your property, to your land holding in the reporting year. If you did apply fertiliser, the details for the year of reporting can be recorded. Again, we click on that Add New button at the top right hand side of the page. You select which land holding. Some farms will have more than one land holding on them, in which case in this drop down menu there would be more than one name. I only have the one, so I'm clicking that this declaration around fertiliser applications is going on to my main block in the 2023 reporting year. So we scroll down and enter in the details of the date that the fertiliser was applied. I can either scroll back through that way, or I can enter a date. Now, you do have to re-enter the fertiliser manufacturer and name and nitrogen percentage. This is because people sometimes stockpile fertiliser on farm or use fertiliser purchased in a previous year. So there's not a direct relationship between your fertiliser purchase and your fertiliser application. So you enter those details. We've got the date that we applied. We're saying that this is my Fertco 1 is the manufacturer, and it is Fertco 1N was the name of the fertiliser. And its nitrogen percentage rate, again, we can use these little up and down arrows, or I can say it's 46% because it's very similar to urea. The Help Centre, again, such an incredibly useful resource, has links to the most used fertiliser types from Balance and Ravensdown. The links there, if you click them, will give you information about the nitrogen percentage for their fertiliser product ranges, and that can help fill out this nitrogen percentage rate form if you need that as a reference. Each record of a fertiliser application, if you've applied more than once in the year, just gets add an application, and like all of the other areas, if there's a mistake made, you can remove that. This date applied, it will always default to today's date, so if you wanted to keep this as a sort of a live diary, you could do that. I'm going to put some on the 7th of February. This time I'm going to enter fertiliser from a company that I haven't declared a purchase from. There's no rules around the declaration. It's up to you as the record keeper, the record maker, to get those details right. So I'm going to Nitro 8 and N8, and this one has 35%. When I'm sure I've got everything sorted and I've got all of my records in there, which might be an aggregate over time, and each time you've finished a day's records, you click Save. So once finished, then you will be able to see a report on the dashboard, which is the summary. Again, if you think that you need to edit those, there's a little scroll thing here, click across to edit, and you can go back through and fix that data or add more to it if you feel that you needed. If you've got the nitrogen percentage wrong, that can be corrected, or we just add new applications to a point where you have all the records for the current reporting year or last year completed and continued. So once you've got it all right, click Save and Continue, and the submission summary page will appear.